Nominated World Heritage Sites, Mount Wutai is constituted by two parts, Taihui Core Area and Fuoguang Temple Core Area. The core area is 18,415 hectares and the buffer zone area is 42,312 hectares. Located in Wutai County of Xinzhou City, the northeastern part of Shanxi Province, China, is made of the oldest stratum in the world, which is more than 2.5 billion years. It has 5 peaks in the north, south, east, west, and center. The peak is 3,061 meters above sea level, which is called the Ridge of Northern China. The mountaintops are flat and wide, commonly known as platform, so it was called the 5 Flat-Top Mountains. Mount Wutai has a magnificent natural landscape and a rich geological heritage. Its unique paleotectonic relics, rare paraglacial and glacier landform, and valuable species and ecological resources serves as a typical evidence of an important period in the history of Earth's evolution. The age of various rock units of granite and greenstone belts in Mount Wutai is around 2.6 to 2.5 billion years, and it's exposed in the great height difference of the new generation of mountains and valleys. Various levels of rocks exposed to surface, and it has time continuity and irreplaceability in geological time. The displayed rich geological phenomenon is irreplaceable in the world. Compared with those well-known mountains around the world, its long history of geological evolution is very rare, and it became the field visit location in many international geological conferences and is the classic geological research area in China. The granite greenstone belt of Mount Wutai also led to the formation of typical Neo-Archean collision orogenic belts, fully revealing the early collision orogen structure section and different levels of crystal, and has typical geological evolution significance. Therefore, Mount Wutai is key evidence for studies of the Archean plate tectonics and the collision orogenic belts. The geochronological boundary of the Archean and Proterozoic eons is considered as the most important geological events in tectonic evolution. During this period, the Earth has undergone profound changes. The International Commission on Stratigraphy proposes the lines of demarcation be drawn at 2.5 billion years ago. Mount Wutai reserves many unconformities interfaced before and after 2.5 billion years, and has clear lines of demarcation between different stages of geological evolution. It's also involved in the radical environmental changes of continental extensions after the end of the collision orogeny 2.5 billion years. They profound sound conditions for setting off the boundaries of the Archean and Proterozoic eons, and is typical area for establishing the Archean-Proterozoic boundary before 2.5 billion years. It's also bearing comparable value to universal geological studies. Mount Wutai keeps a complete record of the Paleoproterozoic strata before 2.5 to 1.9 billion years. There are well-preserved early weathering crusts, ancient red bed, as well as rich records of stromatolites in the stratigraphic sections. There is a rich reserve of paleofloral fossils in the Dochuan subgroup of Mount Wutai, and they are the earliest of China's eukaryotic organisms before 2.4 billion years. It's 600 to 700 million years earlier than previously acclaimed, the oldest eukaryotic fossil record. In this regard, Mount Wutai is valuable to the understanding of earlier evolution of life. Compared with other ancient planation surfaces of East Asia, Mount Wutai is a typical example of the Cenozoic continental extension and of the fault block orogeny. There is several thousand meters of altitude difference between the top of ancient raised plain and the very deep of the sedimentary basins of North China, which is very rare in East Asia. The ancient planation surfaces of Mount Wutai have become one of the most important symbols in the comparative study of Cenozoic tectonic and landscape evolution in North China. In this sense, Mount Wutai has typical significance to the entire East Asia region, and is being an important example in the Cenozoic extension, tectonic evolution, and the basin and mountain relationship in the east part of the Asian continent. The complex geological structure, the changeable climatic environment, and so on natural condition enables Mount Wutai to have obvious biological and ecological characteristics of North Mountain region. The unique Taraxacum nutans of Mount Wutai is scattered at subalpine meadows, which is located at an elevation of 1,870 to 2,900 meters. Besides, there are 14 kinds of Orchidaceae type which have the protection value. There are more than 2,000 kinds of insects at an elevation of 1,000 to 3,061 meters of mountainous region of Mount Wutai, in which 486 kinds have material records, and most of them are the Coleopteran, Rhopalocera, and stink bug classes. The birds have 16 items, 36 branches, and 142 kinds. The time-honored Buddhism cultural continuity, the glorious artistic achievements, the spectacular ancient Buddhist temple complex, and those profound cultural accumulation makes Mount Wutai occupied an important position in China and the world Buddhism development. With over 1,600 years continuous Buddhism practice, Mount Wutai has become the center of the reverence of Manjushri Bodhisattva. It is the most recognized Buddhism mountain in China and is considered as one of the 5 Buddhism holy lands in the world. The Buddhist buildings of Mount Wutai is the world leading in terms of the long-term span and the large scale, and are among the best in the world. In its 15 centuries of development, Mount Wutai gradually formed ambitious Buddhist buildings. In terms of the size, the temple buildings here are virtually matchless, no matter in China or in the world. During the Northern Qi period, AD 551 to 557, there had been more than 200 temples, and the figure rose to over 360 in the prime time of the Tang Dynasty. So far, Mount Wutai still reserves 68 temples and over 150 pagodas built in 7 different dynasties since Tang. These temples vary in size and architectural configuration. For instance, with over 400 halls, pavilions, and monks' abodes, the Shentong Temple is known for its extension of space, and all buildings here look grand. The Bishan Temple consists of 3 bay courtyards with a total number of 108 assembly and meditation halls. Within the 1,123-hectare boundary of the Taihui proposed core zone, there are 24 temples, and the number of singular buildings are countless. Together, these buildings constitute a sizable, grand, simple, yet sublime temple ensemble in harmony with nature. At the prime time of the Qing Dynasty, there were 122 temples and monasteries at Mount Wutai, in which 25 temples are following the Tibetan Buddhism and 97 are following the Han Buddhism. Up to now, there are 7 Tibetan lamaseries existent and more than 40 Han Buddhist monasteries existent within the circle formed by the 5 terraces. Mount Wutai has played an active role in the fusion and development of the Han and Tibetan Buddhism. Like other similar heritage sites, it has contributed greatly to the development of the Buddhist culture. Mount Wutai is the center of Manjushri worship in the world of Buddhism. It is recorded in the Avatamsaka Sutra, translated in the Jin Dynasty, that Mount Wutai is a Bodhimanda of Manjushri. The establishment and the spread of Manjushri worship at Mount Wutai converted it into the number 1 of the 4 Buddhist sacred mountains in China in the middle of the Tang Dynasty.